There you are.
Hey! I'm trying to figure out where to put this.
Well, if you have the camera reversed, it might not flip. Yeah, my camera does. Her piece of shit camera doesn't. Can you see me?
I can see you. I can hear you. Let's see.
I'm going to say parakeets.
Parakeets. Yep, 2 of them.
Two of Oh, okay. Go ahead. Hang on, we're experiencing some. Here, everybody look at Chungus.
Aw.
Chungus is, he's a little special. Oh, you ready? What are you doing? You're making, my phone doesn't suck. That's not even my phone.
I mean your phone holder.
Well, okay. You gonna open that or, there you go. All right. Go ahead.
Well,
What?
I gotta say, at least all this technical difficulties is letting my nerves settle a little, so.
No, I don't know what.
What are you doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, my assistant, Tori Danoon, is just dropping the ball epically here today. All right, so tell everybody who you are and what you do and what your experience is.
All right, so I'm Marina Suggs. As far as, well, I'll give you a little backstory on my whole life. I grew up with horses. You're flipping sideways again. I grew up with horses. I competed with horses. I've been around those my whole life. Went off to college. I grew up in Europe, in Spain. My first experience with working dogs, protection dogs, was in the late 80s. We had a little problem with our vehicles getting broken into at our house at night, and we got a Rottweiler. Good old Rottweiler, and he wouldn't hurt a fly, but that doesn't matter because it's all about perception. But we trained him with, my original experience with protection work was with one of the Spanish military police guys. He was trained in Germany back in the 70s and 80s. So we learned some good old school protection training. Went off to college. I started at the University of the Virgin Islands. I was working on a degree in marine biology. And I happened to meet some guy from Michigan. And, and of course, when I moved to Michigan, there really wasn't much opportunity for marine biology. So I ended up getting a degree in biology and Spanish. And
so you are, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got a delay going, so.
You are a science teacher.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I know that you've been working with Backwoods for a long time with Pat Riley, right? Yep. And you've competed in many facets of dog sports and training with canines, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted you to be on, not because you get nervous, but because you're actually really wicked smart. And I wanted to ask you about the pseudoscience that's going around now. The purely positive is the best way to train a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with that.
Okay, so when we talked about a week ago, at first, of course, I thought you were pranking me to have me come on because that's just between you and Pat Riley. I probably had it coming, but anyway. The first thing I did was I started looking through the queen of being aggressive while you're using purely positive, Victoria Stilwell's site.
Don't say that.
I know it hurts. Run away, Chris. But one of the pages on there, of course, I printed it out. I have boatloads of notes, but she has a page that addresses the science behind positive training. And I thought, okay, interesting. She lists some different articles, some research, things like that at the bottom of the site in order to, of course, justify her position. So I looked through that, and one of the things we have to do as scientists, as critical people, we have to look at what is the validity of the things being quoted, because boy, we can quote a lot of stuff off the internet, and we know that most of the internet is a bunch of garbage. So the things that she quotes a lot of stuff on debunking dominance theory, which of course dominance theory, we know it's not what we used to think it was. Dogs don't come into our homes and try to dominate us. But that doesn't have anything to do with positive training, doesn't have anything to do with any corrections, anything like that. So we have whatever happened to the term alpha wolf, confrontational dominance, using dominance to explain dog behaviors, old hat, and such things. And the most recent article that she quoted was from 2010. So we got some old research here. And we're talking science, modern science, well, that's old stuff.
Well, but she was a soap opera actress, yes, who just decided to get into dogs to make money. And this is the rape of the dog training industry that happens all the time, is that people want to make a ton of money, mm-hmm, and they want to sell you. So I would ask you, let's take a little bit of that. How many dogs do you have right now?
I have 2 dogs. I have an Australian cattle dog and a Belgian Malinois.
And the Australian cattle dog is the one, Mr. Fish, who I know, who, when I was judging, I walked up and he was like, look, I'm an Australian cattle dog. I'm going to give you a nip, but it's not personal. You know, I had an ACD2 Batman, and you can't put them in a cookie cutter, purely positive box. You can't do it. So you use corrections with Mr. Fish.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
It would rule my house.
Yeah. Yeah. Does he use corrections with you?
He shouldn't. I won't say that he doesn't. He is an Australian cattle dog. They have extreme prey drive. They have the extreme instinct to nip at things. And if you're running, he likes ankles. You know?
That's right. Well, I mean, that's genetic predisposition.
Exactly. Right? Now, is it okay? No. Boy, we've worked a lot of stuff with him. But
sure, but you using purely positive pseudoscience, mm-hmm, with trying to get an Australian cattle dog to compete at a high level, to live in a house, there's how could you possibly be positive to the dog all the time when the dog isn't always being positive to you?
Correct. It's very difficult.
Well, it's funny because people kind of I look at it like this. I look at it like a Happy Meal. McDonald's is selling a Happy Meal. It's in a nice little box. Mm-hmm. You get a little prize with it. There's nothing in that box that's good for you. There's nothing.
Right.
So if McDonald's sold the miserable meal, it would be like water, tofu, salad, and some celery.
Right.
And it would come in a brown paper cup. And so that really is much better for you, but it's not what people like in a packaging. So when the pet owner who doesn't really know anything about training, but they know now that they love their dog, mm-hmm, they love their dog, and they see purely positive, they're going to gravitate towards that, going to go towards the commercial marketing of the Happy Meal. But it's really not what it is it?
No. Not at all. It's, well, you think of it too. You have teenagers. It's not always easy to live with them. Sometimes you have to tell them to cut that crap out. You can't just say, oh, you know what? If you do the dishes, I'll buy you a cupcake. No, we're not going to work like that, because that just breeds manipulation.
Well, it makes them entitled. And I get a lot of dogs in here every day. You know, Pat's been out here and he's seen where these dogs are just entitled little brats who have been to 5, 6, 7 purely positive trainers that could not help them.
Right.
And I think what that does too is that a lot of the purely positive training that these trainers try to do with behavior, because they're different, is that they're using purely positive training philosophy and techniques with dogs that have wild behaviors because they used purely positive techniques in the beginning to get them there.
Yeah, makes
Right?
sense.
So let me ask you something. Where you're a science teacher, where you're a mom, where you're in a club, I mean, are you guys like brutally beating the shit out of dogs out there? Is that what it means to not be purely positive?
No, absolutely not. It could be something as simple as, you know, tapping someone on the shoulder saying, hey, focus here. It could be, I was working the dogs this morning, even though it was, again, in the wind chills in the 20s, but we do what we do. And yeah, I had a tab on my dog and he saw something off in the distance. I gentle tap. That's technically compulsion. Was it painful? Not at all. And we talk about e-collars too. One of the articles on She Who Shall Not Be Named's website was, I actually read the whole research paper, talked about e-collar use. And it talked about how, oh, these e-collars generate 1,000 volts of electricity. And where are they getting this from? This is a scientific research paper that was peer reviewed. I grabbed my own e-collar and I set it to the setting that I would use on my dogs. And I got, wait for it, 7 volts. That's less than a 9-volt battery on your tongue. And who hasn't put a 9-volt battery on their tongue for fun?
That's right. Well, and you know, I have a friend who is very into finding how much the e-collar gives, and most e-collars, I mean, I don't know if he wants his name mentioned, so I won't mention it.
Right.
But the research he's done on e-collars is he's like, it's not, you go to like level 2 or 3, and then you're not getting anything above that.
Right.
Those dials that go way up, it's just not like that. Some of them are, but most of them aren't.
Right.
So when you, it's very hard to defend something that's perceived as negative.
Yes.
It's very hard to defend a prong call. It's very hard to defend someone getting upset with their dog. However, I have a theory that if we had a solar flare, a coronal mass ejection, and it wiped out all of the satellites, and we went back to like Stone Age stuff, there would be people making corrections on dogs and nobody would give a shit because we'd have to get work done.
Yes. Yes.
Is that absolutely correct?
Absolutely correct. There's no way around it.
Right.
It's, we even look at, I have, like I said, I grew up with horses. Horses, you have a 1,500-pound animal barreling at you with teeth first. Yes, it does happen. It is absolutely terrifying. You're not going to stand there with a carrot and go, oh, good horsey. You're going to defend yourself, and that's going to happen physically. When you have a mare coming over the stall door at your teeth first, I don't care who you are. You come at that horse, and you come at that horse harder, because otherwise that horse has just learned, hey, you know what? This is kind of a fun game. Get out of my way. Don't touch me. I don't have to do jack.
So when they use negative on us, when they use corrections on us, horses, dogs, pigs, monkeys, whatever it is, and we refuse to use an appropriate, smarter ape, use an appropriate, measured, judicial level of correction, who's the stupid one?
Right, right. It's absolutely true, because dogs do it all the time. Last night I was at a friend's house, and he has a beautiful dog, and kind of Corso, about a year old, and she's totally cool, awesome temperament. Another friend comes over with his big old lab. They get together, the kind of Corso goes bam, nails it, it's done. But it's a correction to say, hey, just remember, this is my place. And there was nothing after that. It's a correction. Was anybody hurt? Is anyone traumatized? No.
I've been to Cheryl Carlson's place. I get corrected all the time out there.
Oh yeah, you don't go there without getting corrected. You might get stuff thrown at you too.
No, I don't. I get like in the back of the head. I'm, hey, you know. I mean, she usually can't reach, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know.
It's no, it's not something like, I think all these people like Voldovich there, whatever her name is, she wouldn't last 5 minutes in your training club. She wouldn't last 5 minutes with Cheryl Carlson. She wouldn't last 5 minutes with Pat Riley.
No.
There's no, you shut those TV cameras off and she's just full of shit.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. And I'll ask you, has she ever competed with a dog in competitive obedience?
Not that I'm aware of.
Schutzen.
No.
Tracking.
No.
Dock diving.
Not even.
And we all know how it worked when she decided to work with police canines. She was stupid. She's supposed to be a dog person. She didn't know what she was doing. She got bit. And then she just turned on all of those cops who let her in the door and started to chastise those guys who know more in their little finger than she knows in her whole body.
Right. She wanted to get the shot. She put herself in a compromised position, and but it wasn't her fault. And that's a problem too, is we're always ready to blame somebody else. It's, you know, the dog, it's a rescue. So it comes with baggage, or, oh, well, the person who had it before did this, that, or the other. And we always have an excuse. And it's not just in the dog world. It's in general. We always want to pass the blame to somebody else.
Yep.
So,
But I also think too that when you see the science of purely positive, I was at a bunch of places. I won't say the name of it because I'll probably get sued. But they were working with dolphins, and they were saying that everything they do is positive. And I said, the dolphin's in a fucking tank. How is that positive?
I have a story on that. I actually, a couple of years ago, my husband, who is absolutely awesome, got me for my birthday an opportunity to go and be dolphin trainer for the day. And it was an absolutely wonderful experience. I love marine mammals. It's one of the things that, got me into marine biology originally. And it was a fantastic experience. And there was at one point, we were doing an activity. We were supposed to be working with 2 dolphins. And what really hit home to me was the moment when the trainer said, well, you're supposed to be working with such and such a dolphin and this dolphin, but this dolphin doesn't feel like participating right now, so we're just going to let it go. And I thought, okay, that's great. However, this is a controlled environment. In real life, we don't get the option to let our dog participate or not if he wants to. If we're out in public, oh, my dog doesn't feel like listening, so he's going to go chase that deer, or he's going to go bite that car tire. That's okay. He doesn't feel like listening right now. That's not an option. And that's not an option in real life. We don't get that. I don't feel like stopping for the red light. It's not an option. We have boundaries for safety.
Yeah, and I think when people forget that, and I think a lot of times now there isn't a lot of respect for law enforcement.
Correct.
There isn't a lot of respect for rules. I was talking to someone yesterday about my kid at school, and my philosophy when I get a report from one of my kids at school is, what did they do wrong?
Right.
Well, it's genetic. But one of the hardest things is that when I see other parents, they're like, what did you do to my kid?
Exactly. You see, there's a cartoon that's been floating around for a long time. Back in the 70s, a kid gets a bad grade. You ask the kid, why is your grade bad? Now you blame the teacher. Teacher's obviously responsible. You know, it's of course, it's a gross overgeneralization, but it does happen.
Oh, it happens a lot. I have a friend who just retired as a phys ed teacher, and she said that the last 10 years she's just been a babysitter, because you can't teach anymore. You can give them stuff to do, but if they decide they don't want to do anything about it, that's just the way it is. Everybody passes, everybody gets a trophy, no child left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start making that with dogs, when we start saying that every dog is thinks the same way,
Right.
that every dog is you can train every dog with purely positive. Do you remember Olaf Hassan?
No, that was before my time.
Okay. How about Ramsey?
Ramsey, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna train that thing with purely positive.
Yeah, that would be fun. Actually,
What
that would be
about?
entertaining to see.
Oh, listen, I'll get a GoFundMe going right now to have Victoria Stinkwell, whatever her name is, come over to my place and train Hadouken with purely positive. And he's super friendly with people.
Right.
You know what I mean? But he's just a lot.
Yeah. And again, it's not to say that positive doesn't have its value. I use positive all the time, but it is not purely positive. You have to balance. You can't sit on one end of the teeter-totter and expect to go up and down. You know, it's not happening.
Have you ever been a substitute teacher?
Oh, yes.
See the smile? What happened when you were a substitute teacher? Did the kids give you a hard time?
Oh, they always do. It's like a tradition. And if you come in and show any form of weakness, they eat you alive. There's no way around it. It happens.
So now what do you do where you're a teacher with some tenure there and you go in and you say, okay, I'm Mrs. Suggs and someone's getting an ass kicking if they're out of line. I mean, you don't go in there and just beat them kids up.
Obviously not.
Right, so what do you do?
Well, we do have consequences, you know. It's simple things like if a kid's out of line, I can walk over and I can stand next to them. That's technically compulsion. I can walk over and just look at them. I can tap them on the shoulder, you know, things like that. And again, yeah, it's a balance. I use a lot of positives. I'm a circus clown up there. If I don't keep their attention, my day's miserable. So I have to give, I have to take. And of course, it's not like the old days where we could paddle them or anything. And we do build a lot on personal relationships, which is an area that I think a lot of people forget about with their dogs.
Well, I think it's too that people forget that verbal communication is out the window with a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that. They'll say like, Hadouken's trained in French, and people will go, oh my God, he's bilingual? And I'm like, no, he's not bilingual. I mean, I look at him and I say, do you think that people in Spain train their dogs in English? Do you think that people in the Czech Republic train their dogs in English?
Right.
No, they don't. So it's just a label.
It's a label.
What people don't understand is just the difference between a label and verbal, you know, deep verbal communication.
Mm-hmm.
We can communicate very easily verbally because we're both the same species and we both speak the same language.
Yes.
If we start getting into Spanish, I can't hang with you. There's no way. I only know one dirty phrase in Spanish and that's it. That's all I know.
Yep.
So if I start going around, so I'm going to go over to Spain and I'm going to be like, wow, everybody's purely positive. I'll say, tengo la pistola grande para ti. Do you think people are going to use negative reinforcement on me for that?
Yeah, most likely.
But I'm supposed to be positive.
Yeah. You smiled when you said it.
But that's right. And there's two human beings communicating that way.
Right.
People forget that the dog is super willing. It's in their genetics. It's in their DNA to communicate physically first.
Right.
Appropriately physically. Like the first thing is, how does the mother teach the puppies that it's time to be weaned? Does she gently click and feed? What does she do?
Exactly. Actually, that was one of the things that I had in my profuse notes, we talk about weaning. You know, the puppy starts to grow teeth. It hurts on the mom. Mom gently nips at the baby. She doesn't rip his head off. She gently nips at him. Say, cut it out. It's, again, compulsion.
And it's a single learning event. They go, oh, okay, the bar's closed. That's it.
Yep.
I'm done. Let's go look for some solid food.
Yes.
So nature teaches predominantly with positives or negatives?
Both.
But which one more?
I guess it depends on the experience. A lot of negatives, a whole lot of negatives. And nature is another one of those words that's been completely misconstrued. Everyone's like, oh, it's natural, it's good for you. Okay, cyanide is natural too, and it'll kill you. You know, it's about quantity. You know, a little bit of cyanide. Cyanide occurs in apple seeds. You'd have to crush up and eat 18 apples worth of apple seeds in order to die. You swallow an apple core, you're not gonna die. Same thing. You use some compulsion, your dog is not going to be traumatized for life. You beat the shit out of your dog, yeah, we've got another issue. It's
right.
I was reading, somebody said that there's a fine line between sense and nonsense, but we don't really know where that line falls. And it's the same thing. It's like, just because you use it doesn't mean it's abuse.
Well, I look at it this way, is that people are so soft now. They're so soft that, and this huge like corporate marketing machine, even with rescues where everything's about pity and that sells dogs and everything, people, it's not really the general public's fault because they're so.
Hold on, somebody's walking up to my front door. Give me just a second.
Go ahead. So what I was going to say to you is it's not, well, you're not even going to be able to hear me. Nature does not burden herself with emotion. Time is rocking it out. I like that. Yeah, I always say nature wants you to die. It wants you to die. Look at this. Woo, Mama's out there doing some. Did you click and feed?
No, I yelled at him to plots. And guess what they're doing?
Now that they're plotting.
They're plotting and they're quiet for a little bit. Now I just got to give them a moment before I release them, because otherwise they'll lose their minds again.
Right, and I like that you're purely positive. You'll put your foot in their ass if they do it again.
I'm positively going to put my foot in their ass if they do it again.
That's right. And it's funny because I know very few people who love their animals more than you do.
Oh, I love my animals. I really do.
I know you. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get it, right? But I was saying that I think people are so soft now that they don't want to risk any discomfort. Right. Just risk it. So if you use a prong collar and you're teaching other people to use a prong collar, and one of those people has some anger issues and they go out and they just start beating the shit out of the dog with the prong collar, they don't want that to possibly happen. Let me tell you something. That's gonna happen anyway. Yeah. It's gonna happen anyway. Because whether you or I are there to teach them, they're going to go out there and do it. If they were gonna do it after being told not to do it by us, right, they're still gonna do it if they don't run into us. So what people are doing a lot of the time is trying really hard to prevent anything bad from happening. Yeah. Anything bad. So, but that's not natural. And this James Penrith wrote, nature does not burden herself with emotion. No, nature doesn't give a shit about your feelings. No, nature wants you to die. Yeah, nature's random, nature's brutal. Good grief, you run into a grizzly bear, that grizzly bear is not going to go, oh, wow, what a cute little person, I'm going to let it live. No. That's right. It's, that's right. I don't know. Doesn't it seem like the people who are long on emotion and short on experience are making the laws now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. The one article I referred to about the e-collars, one of the things was saying that because an e-collar is capable of causing discomfort, we should work to ban e-collars. Yeah, my shoe is capable of causing discomfort when I throw it at your head. No more shoes, you know, it's that mentality. Life is not going to be without stress. Stress is part of daily life. Good grief, I was stressed out all day about coming on here. My doctor was staring at me like I was losing my mind. My heart rate was probably going, and they're standing there going, what is wrong with you? But it's stress, and stress is going to happen, and we need to teach coping mechanisms. That's part of the whole thing. We go and socialize our dogs. We expose them to stressors, teach them how to handle it, and sometimes that involves correcting the dog when he chooses to do something really stupid.
Well, that's, you know, it's funny, I'm going to butcher this, but I just saw a meme that said, the moment you decide to relieve your child's discomfort, you have to admit that you have also taken the opportunity for them to conquer that discomfort, and that leaves them more vulnerable to that same discomfort.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. The dog is, puppies run around the house and something falls on the ground and the puppy gets scared and runs away, and you pick it up and you coddle it. You just taught that puppy that that's going to be a problem for the rest of its life.
Yes. And it is so easy to happen. And I hate to admit this, but it's a really interesting study in correlation. Again, it's anecdotal because it's personal experience, but my Malinois has a huge issue with Alexa. You know, Alexa, the thing. Yep. And I finally figured out that he had a correlation because it sounds the same as the voice from my smoke alarm. The smoke alarm is loud. It freaks him out. So when he hears the voice coming on for the smoke alarm when I'm cooking, because I'm so good at it, he knows that that beeping is coming very shortly after, and he's like, oh crap, I hate this. I really don't like it. Alexa comes on, the voice is the same. He associates that, and he's like, oh, heck, no, not again. And I've spent a lot of time trying to condition him. It's like, dude, you're fine. Suck it up. You're good. You know, you don't have to freak out. But
did you get rid of Alexa?
No, heck no. No, he's just going to have to deal with it, and I'm not going to be mean about it, but I am going to say, hey, dude, you know, I know you're freaking out now. You got to cool it, all right? I'm fine. You're fine. We're just going to move through it. We're going to do something else, and it's just going to become background noise to you. It's
no big deal.
It's no big deal.
And too many people are making a big deal out of stuff that shouldn't be a big deal, that the dog never gets the stress inoculation that it needs to just live.
Right.
To just live.
It's like, how many dogs do you know that barely ever leave their house because they can't go for a leash walk around the neighborhood? Because it stresses them out. Oh my gosh, there was a bird. Oh my gosh, there's a car. It's...
Well, that's, I mean, we spend, working dog people, we spend a lot of time on that, getting the dog to understand that the world is not a scary place.
Right.
And the pet dog owners who are taught actually spend more time teaching the dog that the world is a scary place.
Yeah, and then it's not through any fault of their own. Just because they don't understand. They want to make sure that this animal is comforted. They have good intentions, but again, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So,
well, I look at it this way too: is that I have 30 years in, okay, and I've been a decoy, I've been a judge, I've been, you know, a competitor. I've done everything you can do within, you know, reason. I have a lot that I'm doing. When someone starts talking about purely positive, and then how my work in the dog world is void because of science,
Right.
Because what I've done I mean, I have science, but I don't have the pseudoscience.
Right.
And when they say to me, you're full of shit because you don't know this study. They know one study.
Right.
And where did that study come from? Who wrote the study? Like there's a lot of nutritional studies coming from Science Diet.
Mm-hmm.
Science Diet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the thing too with the pseudoscience, they'll pick things that they agree with out of some study, out of some abstract, without reading through the entire process. You have to have a good scientific method. There's nothing wrong with science, but you have to be able to reproduce that science. If you cannot reproduce that study, that invalidates what you're studying. You have to be able to also look at it critically and say, all right, well, what could I do in order to disprove what I'm studying? Is there something that would be able to disprove what I am seeing? And the problem too with a lot of the science is the funding. Where's the money coming from? A lot of studies are happening because, again, people are working on their master's thesis, PhD thesis, and they're busting out studies. And these colleges, of course, they have to read through it. Maybe sometimes something slips through the cracks. And I'll go back to that one study because it's the most recent one I read, so that's what I'm going to refer to. But what I found really interesting was in the methodology, they talked about the camera that they used to record the dog's behavior, but they never told us what the e-collar was. They never told us what level of stimulation the collar was set at. They never told us about what type of handler was handling the dog, how much experience the handler had. There's so many unknowns, so many variables that are extremely important.
Yeah.
So, but they
Right.
still
And
take it and it becomes gospel.
It does. And that's the thing is that emotional people tend, so it's like, it's like, I don't know. Let me put it this way. I have a friend who he owns New England Reptile Distributors, and there's a bunch of people who want to ban snakes.
Right.
They're having the same problem they're having, right?
Yeah.
And they don't know what a snake is. Like a ball python's 4 feet long, and they think because the news will blow it up and say a python is loose in Flint, Michigan.
It's an anaconda.
It's gonna die in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna die, and you're fine.
Yeah.
But what news does is sensationalize it, put people in panic, and now everybody's got forks and torches. Let's ban it, and they don't know a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah. And the internet again is a minefield of misinformation. Everybody is so good at cherry picking. They'll pick something that they agree with, and boom, there it is. And whenever we're looking at stuff on the internet, I think one of the important things is click on those sources that you see, open up the link, leave it in your browser, and go back to it later and see, all right, how much validity is there to it? Because sometimes some stuff that we see that seems outlandish, well, hey, guess what? Sometimes we are wrong. And it's okay to admit that we are wrong. And I think that's another problem that a lot of people have is their complete inability to change their mind based on facts, which is exactly what we're dealing with.
Ariel Paduna said, I always say her last name wrong. She had this great study, and I asked her for it, where people were told a wrong fact. And then some of the group was told after a week that it was incorrect, some after 2 months, some after a year. And the longer they believed it, the harder it was for them to change their minds and give it up. Even though they knew it was wrong.
Yep. And nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. It's you tell anyone that they're wrong. You give them a fact that they believe something else. Oh, and they will get defensive. They'll get all bent out of shape about it instead of just saying, guess what? I was wrong. And I think that's an important part just in life. You know, you can't hold on to these ideas when they've been proven to be wrong. We're wrong. We're humans. That's why pencils have erasers. We are wrong a lot.
You know, it's funny. I remember 20 years ago, the first time I met Cheryl, and I was just running my mouth. You know how I am. And all she kept doing was putting me in situations where I was wrong. And I didn't like it outside of the dogs,
No.
but I went out there because I wanted to know what I was doing wrong.
Yes. It's
And
hard.
every time I was wrong, what I realized was I got a lesson.
Yeah.
Every time I said I didn't know something, I got a lesson. Every time I said I was wrong, I got a lesson. Like, I'll tell you one thing. I went out there years ago, probably 10 years ago, and I am terrified of horses. I hate horses. I really don't like them.
They're big.
Because I'm used to being the biggest thing in the room, except when Mike Ivancevich is
Yeah,
around.
no kidding.
So I'm taller than him. He's just wider than me. So I go out there and I'm just talking about horses and how they suck and yada, yada, yada. And of course, Cheryl has horses. And she says, Chris, go help Lori bring the horses in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was saying what my weakness was.
Yes.
And she was like, you're getting
Yeah,
over
pray
it,
on
fool. And then we went right out there. And of course, I have a lot of respect for her. So I did it. And you know what? By the end of the time, I'm patting the horse and everything. And it was really great. But I hated her fucking guts for that.
Yeah.
I hated it. But then I loved her because I was like, all right, I did it.
Yeah.
And that's really what people won't do anymore.
Right.
The young kids coming up and even some of the old people, they just want to get to a point where they can make money.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to be told, they don't want to keep learning the craft, keep learning the craft, keep learning the craft.
No, they'll regurgitate
And so
the same stuff over and over and over again because that's what people have come to believe. It's a good old saying, just because you keep saying it doesn't make it true.
That's right. That's exactly right. I just think when I come out there, wherever I go, it's to your place or Cheryl's place, and even Howard Burgess, like I learn from being wrong. And
Yes.
that to me is calling Howard, calling Cheryl, calling Pat and saying, hey, I don't know how to fix this. What
Right.
do you got? And then we all kind of work together and I go, thanks. I mean, that's why Pat came out here. It's Pat's amazing. Like he is unbelievably humble,
Yes.
unbelievably talented, always looking to suck up more information. He
Yeah,
puts
he's
himself
always
in
learning.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that I have respect for. But the problem is, I don't have respect for the guys that are out there hunting for respect. They're constantly telling you to respect them.
Yes.
Respect is earned, not bestowed.
Right.
You have to earn it. When you see good work, you respect it. When you see bullshit, you say something.
You say something, and it can be hard to call it out because, again, some of these people can be very aggressive about how much they know. They do not like to admit that they're wrong. But we got to keep an open mind here, but again, not so open that your brain falls out.
Do you remember, it was the last time I was out there, and I really wanted a decoy so bad, and you guys stuffed me with like a shoehorn, a forklift, and some grease
Oh, it was
into
awesome.
that bite suit.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't walk for 2 days. But I remember there was a guy, nice guy, but running his mouth, an older gentleman, about how his German Shepherd was the baddest and this and that. And then you guys asked me to do the civil.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember
I'm trying to
what I
think
did?
of which dog that would have been. There's been so many dogs that have come through the years.
I went over and the guy's just talking to it, and I put some pressure on the dog, and the dog jumped in the back seat of the truck that was there.
Okay.
And so I go over and I took the guy's hat and I took the guy's glasses and I put them on and I walked away. And the guy was furious with me. I said, listen, man, you were telling me your dog was going to kill me. I don't have any equipment on. I took your glasses. I took your hat. I walked over to Brad Howe and Brad goes, that was just rude.
Chris, you are rude, but hey, that's what we come to love about you.
You're in a protection tournament
Right.
and you're running your mouth. What do you think someone's going to do?
Yeah.
If that dog was legit, there's no way I can stick my hands in there and get that stuff.
Right. Right.
I'm not, you know what I mean? But that's, ego comes into it, pride comes into it, and it's like, look, if you can do it to me, I'm going to shake your hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to shake your hand afterwards and say, great, I got something to work on.
Yeah.
But that goes back to these purely positive people that because I look like I look and I say, no, you're incorrect, you're bullying me.
Right.
You're
All of a sudden they become the
belittling
victim.
me. And that's kind of the side argument. Go ahead.
No, that all of a sudden they become the victim. And
Yeah, well, I can't be stating my case and being a good guy and then just trying to have a normal scientific debate, and then someone goes into the emotional realm of, oh my God, you're making me feel uncomfortable.
right, there's no room for emotion in science. It's methodical, it's clean, it's cut and dry. Once you bring emotion into it, it's not science anymore. You have to back everything up with facts and data. Yeah, I get it.
I have to cut you because I have an eval coming up that I have to take care of. I cannot thank you enough. I want you to come back on. Will you come back on?
Absolutely. I'm not having a heart attack, so I'm good.
Give a thumbs up to Marina, everybody. Give her a thumbs up if you like the interview. And Marina, where can they people contact you if they want to get some of your photography, or tell us about your club or your events that are coming up?
You can contact me through Backwoods Canine. You can contact me on Facebook at Marina Suggs. Pretty much, believe it at that. So.
Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And I hope to see you soon, whether you guys come out here or we come out there. I miss you guys very much. I always have a great time.
Yes, you need to come out and run the Alpha with us. I want to see you run through that course.
Run?
Yes, you and Hadouken.
Ask Pat about running.
Yes, exactly. That's why we want it.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.